morning, Grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blenderhead, Blender HD. Follow me there on Twitter. And this is the show you should know already. We go over a little bit about yesterday's slate. We got some stuff to talk about. Maybe touch on today's big 15-gamer. All the teams are playing, and they're all playing they're all playing past 7 o'clock. So they're all on the same slate. Maybe we'll look at the preliminary projections, answer strategy questions. That's what I do best here on the show on YouTube chat. I see you guys in there. Suki Singh, Jerome Lewis, Edward Brown, Brett Garrettson, Brandon McNeil, Frederick Duke, Chandler Cannon, Card Fan, Eric Johnson, Mike Blaze, Hog Lawrence. You know what to do first. I got the apple juice here. So keep it cold. Hit those thumbs up buttons and the thummy thumbs. Give me the thummy thumbs. Give me the subscribey scribes. Give me the notification belly bells, right? To know when we go live in the morning. Yesterday, you need to turn on your notifications. That's the theme of yesterday's slate. I still don't get it. I don't get it, people. Especially if you're a RotoGrinders premium member, especially. But you don't even have to be a premium member to get RotoGrinders notifications. Okay? You don't. Just download the RotoGrinders app from the App Store on your phone. That's all you need to do. Okay? You turn on notifications for MLB Urgent. You'll get them. You don't have to worry about it. Any guy that gets scratched, any guy that lineup changed, this guy's whatever, you'll know about. And if you don't, let's say you don't want to do that. Let's say I don't want to have another app on my phone. You get Twitter. On Twitter, you could go to the RotoGrinders MLB Twitter account, and you could set that you'll get a push notification anytime it tweets, right? Now, is that the best thing to do? Because we tweet out the starting lineups, like the batting orders and everything. If you don't want to get all of those, that's why you get the RotoGrinders app. But yesterday, Vincent Velasquez was scratched 20 minutes before lock. 6:44 p.m. Eastern, I believe, was the tweet from the beat writer saying that he's stopped his warm-ups and David Hale is going to start. And then RotoGrinders notification, came out at 6:48. Okay? So the tweet came out at 6:44. 4 minutes later, RotoGrinders had a notification. If you're on Twitter, you would have seen it in the same amount of time period also, right? If you follow beat writers, but you don't have to. Like, I've tweet that, so I see all the stuff that comes in. So I don't necessarily need the notifications, but it helps if I'm in the bathroom, right? If I'm out taking a walk, if I'm walking the dog or something, and I'm not expecting it, at least I'll know about it. So I do not get people that are like, an hour past the slate. Oh, I didn't realize that this guy was scratched. Oh, I'm going to take zeros in my lineup. Like, how are you not getting phone notifications? Like, I know it doesn't happen as often, rarely in MLB than it does in like NBA or something. But how do you play DFS seriously? How do you play DFS at all without having notifications on your phone? We had Vincent Velasquez in the bat flip on Draftkings. He was 18.9% owned. How does that happen? Well, the rate gets paid. I lost anyway yesterday. It didn't matter. How did this many people get stuck with Vincent Velasquez? Well, I know, because I'm in the RotoGrinders Discord, which you could get as a premium member. Click on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. People like 10 minutes, 7:30. What happened to Velasquez? Like, dude, we do notifications on purpose. On purpose. You could have built lineups with David Hale projected in on Lineup HQ before lock. Okay, so it's not like it was a secret. Now, once the news came in, I just X'd them out and reran my lineups. So I was already building lineups at that point with Velasquez in them. But I didn't even wait because David Hale needed to be projected for something. It didn't mean I was going to play him anyway. And then the Marlins have to be bumped up, right? because versus Velasquez is actually a decent pitcher, and a bullpen game is not as good as Velasquez. But there's so many people jumping into premium Discord like 20 minutes after the slate locks. It's like, why isn't Velasquez getting any points? Like, where have you been? I was grilling on the whatever. Someone's like, I was grilling on the make it dinner on the grill, built my lineups, and then take it. Do you have your phone on you? I have no idea. I mean, to me, that's common sense. To me, you can't cry about it. I can't believe this happened. Why don't you have notifications on your phone? I don't get this. That's why you could tell. I can't fathom that. I have notification if I'm playing if I'm playing MMA tomorrow, right? Because a lot of times in MMA, you know, maybe the fight's going to be called off or something. Someone gets sick or something. Like, dude, I'm expecting something. Now, does it mean I have to look and go, oh, I need to scour and look all the time? No. I subscribe to something where it comes to me, right? Or I have notifications on some Twitter account that will notify me. So I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to, you know, walk around the day and do whatever and just like, oh, I'm never going to know unless I'm just staring at Twitter. Like, no, that's why I have notifications. That's why RotoGrinders offers notifications for free. If you download the app for all the sports. So you'd get it. So people ask me, how did you know and I didn't know? Well, you're stupid, I guess. How do you not plan for this? I don't get it. That to me, I don't get it. Right. If you had Alfredo Barragan, if you were a premium member Crunch Time, yeah, I mean, because we're doing a show at the same time, right? Right. They had Cardi was on yesterday and Roth and Cheese or whoever was on yesterday. Right. It was announced on the show. I mean, yeah. So there you go. I mean, it's how do you miss this? But worst case scenario, if you're not listening to a show, if you're not staring at Twitter, you're out grilling, right? You're going to the store, right? You did your lineups and you're like, okay, I'm done at 6:40. I'm good. Slate locks at 7:05. And you get in your car and you're like, I'm going to go to the grocery store. Well, you don't you have your phone with you? I mean, don't you? You'd hear the notification at 6:48 going bing, ding, ding, you know, whatever notification sound you have. And you'd look and you go, oh, apparently Vincent Velasquez is scratched. What's the worst case scenario? You go into global swap, right? You just global swap him out. Put in Drew Smiley instead. And if he's already in lineups with Drew Smiley, you go into those lineups and put someone else in. You put someone else from the later game. You put in Dodd, you put in David Price just as a placeholder until you could get home or something or whatever. You have options. So I don't get it. I don't feel any sympathy for people that played Vincent Velasquez unless they did it on purpose. Like, pitching is so bad, I'm just going to take a 0. I mean, you could have done that, I guess. Most people didn't. Let's see. Go through the YouTube chat. I don't know. This is my rant. It's Casual Friday. I'm giving you a casual rant. Right. Michael Dompier said, yeah, Cardi's hail projection when he was putting it in had too high of a pitch count, but he just X him out. I wasn't going to play him anyway, so I just X'd him out, so I don't have to worry about it. Sometimes you just X him in. The only thing I had to wait on was the Marlins projections. Could I have built without updated project? Of course. I was doing that anyway. But it's like, I want to see how big of a bump the Marlins get with Velasquez out now and David Hale in. And they did get a bit of a bump. So my last build was at 6:59, it got updated. And I made my last, and I bumped up the Marlins. You can see a lot of sharp people did that. Right? We take a look at some of these 150 maxers on DraftKings. I played on FanDuel yesterday. I played cash games on DraftKings, but I played GPPs on FanDuel. But we could see here, Vincent Velasquez, no one had him, right? No sharp player that had Vincent Velasquez. They got rid of him. And you also see the Marlins got a lot of sharp players. I could even go to like Need Lunch Money, who came in third. Like, he literally just he 100%ed the Marlins. He played this stack: Cooper, Dickerson, Rojas, Anderson, and Aguilar in 100% of his lineups. Because basically Vincent Velasquez was going to be owned yesterday, right? He was going to be probably the second chalkiest pitcher on the slate, which means the Marlins ownership is going to go down. I mean, it's a 4-game slate. There's only so many choices you have. So now with Velasquez out now the Marlins ownership, if people didn't react quick enough, the Marlins ownership, the Marlins should be more owned. But it turns out that they actually ended up being owned, right? Enough people did that. So we could take a look at the ownership of this. Brian Anderson, 20%. Rojas, 17%. Aguilar, 16%. They were like the second chalkiest team. The Braves were the chalkiest. That's what it seems like, right? Freeman, Acuna, Riley. The Braves were the chalkiest, and then the Marlins ended up the second chalkiest. Because so much of the field, especially in the sharp end of the spectrum, just decided to jam them. Like, not like, oh, I'm going to play some Marlins now. It's like, no, I'm going to take advantage of this 25-minute period and just jam them. And it turns out they jammed them to the point in that they weren't all that inefficient to play. Right? You do something like that. You jam the Marlins in that spot on a 4-game slate when you think that the ownership's going to be in the single digit. When the ownership's still going to be the same as if Velasquez was pitching, which still makes it kind of odd that almost 20% of the field still had Velasquez, and still enough of the sharp players jammed in the Marlins to get the Marlins up to this level. Because Brian Anderson was not going to be 20% owned. Aguilar definitely was not going to be 16% owned before the Velasquez news. We're talking about guys, Anderson would have been 8%, and Aguilar would have been 7%. It would have been twice as lower. Cooper, 15.75%. Dickerson, 15%. These would have been single digits. That's what makes it weird. That how does Velasquez get 19%, yet the Marlins got jammed in? Well, it's because of guys like Brick 75. I mean, he just jammed. I mean, you see, jam, Uticow, jam. Just like, once that news came out, it's like, okay, where's the EV? EV is in the Marlins, and a lot of people did that. A lot of the sharp players, they did it now to their detriment. Right? Because that game locks, and you look and you see the ownership, and you go, how the hell did that happen? Oh, everyone had the same idea as you, right? At least the people that have 150 lineups did. FanDuel, they were owned. So that's what I did on FanDuel. I upped my Marlins exposure. I didn't jam them or anything. But Miguel Rojas ended up being 17% owned with his home run. I think Garrett Cooper was like 6%. Aguilar was 12%. I mean, they got bumped up. But if you did that yesterday, I think that was the move. I think a lot more people did it than what I expected. Because obviously the pricing is all off now. With Velasquez, I mean, not all off. I mean, Velasquez isn't an ace pitcher or anything. But in comparison to the slate, and then obviously that bumps up the ownership for Alcantara and Smiley. Because pitching on the slate was awful. I can't believe Matt's even got to positive points right after that second inning. Right, like pitching was horrible, and then you had the beat writers saying that David Price was going to start, and Edwin Uceda was going to come in to have the bulk innings. Right, and then Jimmy Nelson comes in and pitches 2 good innings, and we never see Uceda. We see F.J. Bourne, Royal Payne, 21. A bunch of sharp players had Uceda. Uceda was 16% owned on DraftKings. Plenty of people. Some people didn't. If you got stuck with Uceda in your lineups tonight, it's not like you did anything dumb. It was risky. Yeah, when you play projected long relievers like that, you have to understand that that's not 100% guarantee that they're gonna actually pitch. Most of the time, the information is correct and they are gonna pitch, but sometimes it's not. It's Dave Roberts also. You have to, right? You're going to trust him with the pitching staff? No. But those are the moves. If you got Velasquez out in time, like Velasquez paid the rake, which sucks so much that all these people paid the rake, and I still lost money yesterday, right? Because I went the opposite direction of everyone else. I figured that this would increase the ownership of Alcantara to inefficient levels, so I stacked a lot of the Phillies, right, for leverage. And obviously that didn't work out because Alcantara put up the highest pitching score, and the Phillies were awful. But it's a 4-game slate. What else am I going to do? Right? The early slate was fine. I did great on the early slate, stacking the Giants against Molly. Scored 19 runs. Okay, that worked out. Right, the highest owned pitcher. Stack it. I think Herman on the early slate was the highest owned. But on these 4-game slates, you have to, what stance? You either play the Pirates against Smiley, you play the Phillies against Alcantara, or you try to get like weird by using some 9th, 8th, and 9th hitters in some of your stacks or whatever. Those are the clearest paths to first place. And I chose the Phillies, who put up like 2 hits total. Right, 2-1. Did it even have a second hit? Brad Miller got thrown out of the game. Who knows? Hoskins came out early. That was a disaster. Let's go through the YouTube chat some more. Nate Branshaw, do you think we are going to get to a point this year where Toronto Park will become similar to Coors and fading it on most slates will be plus EV? I don't think they're playing. They're not playing there. Like they have another week and a half there. I don't think they're playing there anymore. But June 1st, I think they go to Buffalo, right? Is that true? I don't know. That's what I thought. But yeah, so anytime you have like a ballpark like that, or Coors, or a Wrigley win game, a lot of times it tends to go over-owned. Right. Okay. Yeah. People in chat are pointing that out. Buffalo's also a hitter-friendly park. It's not gonna be as hot. I mean, Buffalo is one of those, like they're not in the PCL, but I consider those style of parks. The walls are in. They're high walls, but they're in more. It's a minor league hitters park. Michael Dompier says, I wonder what the field was on Velasquez at 6:44 p.m. Probably 60%, maybe higher. So even though he was owned at 18%, the 40% probably were smart enough to pivot to Miami too. Yeah, that could make sense. Because I mean, take a look at this Mats ownership. Like people didn't want to play Mats. Mats was probably before the news, before the VV news. Mats was what, 12% maybe? Maybe something. Pivetta was 17% owned. No one wants to play him. So that ownership was probably cut in half. Drew Smiley was probably cut in half. He was probably going to be like maybe 35% owned. So yeah, so maybe VV would have had against the Marlins. Yeah, and people would have played. Yeah, maybe I don't think it was 50 or 60% owned, but maybe he would have been 40% owned. Right? So the 20%, the 21, 22% of people that got Velasquez out of their lineups were smart enough to now play more Marlins, which obviously inflated all of the Marlins ownership. Yeah, no, mathematically, I guess that does make sense. Right, if Velasquez was going to be that owned. I think so. The pitching on the slate was awful. No one's playing Merrill Kelly. Merrill Kelly actually didn't do that bad, right? Merrill Kelly put up 30 points. It was 6% owned. Right. If you had Alcantara and Kelly and got the right bats from the Toronto Boston game and the Miami home runs or whatever, you won. There you go. You did it. Is that what happened? What was the number one? Okay, a single bullet won first. And that was it was a 5-3 Boston Miami, which makes sense. You got Gary Cooper, Rojas, and Anderson in there. Okay. You got home run from Martinez, home run from Dalbec. Chavis put up 12. Vasquez and Hunter Renfroe didn't have to do anything, but he had Alcantara and Kelly. There you go. Need lunch money had Vomit, right? 48-2. I mean, look how much salary remaining. 200 there. Here's 1,800. Alcantara, Kelly, and a 5-3 Miami Pittsburgh. Because Stallings had a home run. Reynolds has a home run. Frazier had a good game. You got the Miami guys in there. Aguirre with a 0. Kelly's 6% owned, so that helps you out over here. There's another need lunch money. Right, saying Boston, Miami with a Stallings one-off. Alcantara, Kelly. Alcantara, Kelly. He was all over the place with Alcantara, Kelly. But he was playing all Miami. Like, I didn't even bring him up on the ownership over here. Like, if we see his lineup, let's see. I gotta need lunch money. We go to his lineups or her lineups. I don't know these people. Whoever. Like, look, 100%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alcantara, Anderson, Rojas, Aguirre, Cooper, Dickerson. So he just played literally 150 5-man Miami stacks. Just said, screw it. That's where the edge is. It was going to lock those guys in and Alcantara, and just whatever fits around them, that's what fits around them, right? Had no Freddie Freeman, no Braves, right? Barely any Acuna, right? Very condensed. Is this what you should be doing? No. It's not the same thing to do. No. If you're right, if you're right, then this is what happens when you're right. You come in 3rd, 5th, 6th, 10th, 11th, 23rd, 25th, 29th, right? You're all over the top. But I mean, if the Marlins put up 2 runs yesterday, you would have seen need lunch money all over the place, but it would have been at the bottom. Pretty much all the lines. High variance. Doesn't mean it's correct or incorrect. It just means I'm building 150 lineups on the Marlins, and they do well, I do well. If they don't do well, all my money, boop, in the garbage, right? But overall, the sentiment I agree with. Once Velasquez was scratched, you should have been more on the Marlins. That's what most of the sharp players did. Now, a lot of them did, which made the ownership go up. But if you were thinking in those terms, then you were thinking smartly. Oh, let's see. Edward Brown, on your most recent podcast, you talked about getting uncomfortable at pitcher to gain leverage in GPPs. There are 4 obvious aces tonight. Fade all 4. Are there 4 aces tonight? Are there really? I think there may only be 2 pitchers worth playing over 10K today. Bauer and Ian Anderson. I don't know how you play Nola at 11-6, but I mean, I guess you can. Glasnow at Dunedin. People will go there. I don't think he's worth 11-2 there. You're gonna play 10K for Alex Wood against the Dodgers? Probably not. It's like, what are the aces? Rodon 9,900 against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium? Probably not. Martin Perez is 9,400 for some odd reason. That's a joke. So it's like, what aces? What do you mean aces? Bauer. That's all I see. Bauer. And then Ian Anderson. And do you really want to pay 10-5 for Ian Anderson? Okay, but that isn't as bad. Based on the bat projections at 10 in the morning. It's like people like, you're gonna fade all, yeah. Well, I'm gonna fade a bad value pitcher. Yeah, if Glasnow's the type of pitcher, if he's low owned, I want to play him now. But now that they're pricing up pitchers like this, now vomit stacks start coming into play. Vomit stacks that aren't going to be owned, like that's the key. Not when we play not when the Mariners are chalked, because everyone's doing it, right? But we have Paddock, against Seattle. Paddock's really cheap on FanDuel. Has he been pitching well? Probably not really, but right. You got Hendricks, got mine. We got a lot of pitchers. A lot of pitchers that are in the mid range that don't project all that much differently than the high end pitchers today. The high end pitchers. I mean, from a raw points perspective, Nola comes in fine, second highest raw points according to the bat. You're paying 11.6 for that. I guess you could do it. Have to see what happens when ownership comes in. But yeah, the options on the slate for pitching. Like you could get very different today at pitching and do just fine. There's 15 games on the slate. I mean, dude, you play anyone you want, right? We got stacks and stuff. Let's take a look at what stacks currently based on the current projections the bat projects. Stack projections. Let's just go purely by ceiling. Obviously, Coors, right? Rockies, Diamondbacks. That's going to be number one, right? Then from a point per dollar perspective, the Brewers against Jeff Hoffman in Cincinnati. The Pirates against Ian Anderson, but they're really cheap. You can see the ceiling here is just like garbage. But the Brewers are not bad. What does the Brewers lineup look like today? Because Yelich is cheap. Is he broken? He just came back from the DL. I don't know, but he's 4,600 on DraftKings. I think that's why. If we go to the Brewers, I mean, you got Lorenzo Cain at 3,300, Narvaez at 3,700, Avi Garcia, Vogelback, Travis Shaw. This isn't that bad of a lineup. They have a 4.61 implied run total, and they're pretty cheap. And Jeff Hoffman is not a good pitcher. So maybe the Brewers is a vomit stack. Is that you don't play Colton Wong, you play Cain, Yelich, Narvaez, Vogelbach, Shaw, so you don't take up all outfield spots or something. You could do it. That could be the vomit stack of the day. But is it worth even playing two 10K pitchers? You play what? Bauer, Anderson? I guess so. You could. What else do we got here? The Mets against Holloway. Point per dollar value, not the highest of ceilings. The Mets are not good. Yeah, without Alonso in the lineup, I mean, it just makes them cheap. 3.5 implied run total. But they're just cheap, right? Other than Lindor and Smith. I mean, it's like Vargas, Lee is in the lineup. Perez is batting 6th. That's how bad their lineup is. They just signed Cameron Maben, and he's batting 3rd. So I don't know. I don't know about the Mets. They're cheap. That's the best thing you could say about them. With Tampa Bay against Anthony Kay. Let's see. What's Tampa Bay's lineup look like to get that projection? Tampa Bay is playing in Dunedin. Margot, yeah, if Margot's in, that's going to be nice at 3,400. Yandy Diaz. Adames is 2,900. Even Kiermaier at the bottom of the lineup. Yeah, you can make it a raise stack. Am I scared of Anthony Kay? No. The Rays are in play today. I mean, I think they'll be owned. I mean, I think everything that I'm mentioning, they're going to be owned. Coors, that is the highest total. Look, 6 for the Rockies, nearly 5 for the Diamondbacks. And they forgot to price up some of these people. Havin Smith is under 4K. Josh Rojas is under 4K. David Peralta is 4,100. You always have Dalton Varsho. If he makes the lineup, he's 3K. Leiba's 2,800. And even on the Rockies side, like Story's only 5,200. Typically in this spot against what? Seth Frankoff? He would be almost 6,000. Crone is 3,800. Fuentes is 3,200. I mean, Coors is going to be popular today. But rightfully so. I mean, look at these prices. This is all you have to do. Just go. I'm going through the stack projections and looking. Like what? It's not that complicated. Point per dollar, ceiling point per dollar. You just look and you go, okay. Diamondbacks have a high ceiling, but a little bit lower point per dollar value. Which we don't care. That's for the median. I don't care about the medians. We look at the bottom and go, okay, Boston Red Sox against Nola. Awful. Astros against Kyle Gibson. Not good. Braves against Tyler Anderson. I mean, 89, I guess. I guess they have a ceiling. You can sort by ceiling. I guess they're up there somewhere. You just look around. Based on the current projections, obviously, that's going to be updated. Let's see. Go through the YouTube chat. Feel free to post your questions. Right? Casual Friday. Let's have some casual questions. It doesn't even have to be about DFS. We just do casual stuff. The show only goes as long as you ask questions. Because what else am I going to look at? It's 11:30 in the morning. We have 15 game slate, and none of the batting orders are out. Rob Rodriguez says we have some ownership now. If I update, we do. Do we trust it this early? I don't. Do we? Do we? I don't see. Okay, now we see it. Let's take a look at pitching. Bauer. Is Strasburg broken? Are people going to play him? He hasn't pitched. Yeah, he hasn't pitched in, 5 weeks? Should we be playing him? Glasnow is going to be owned. I'd love to see 20% Glasnow because I'll X him out. That's why I don't know. I don't think he's going to be 20% owned. That's why the ownership projections are this early. I don't go by. Mike Minor against the Tigers. Okay, that isn't that bad. Yeah, but I don't mind. Like Kyle Gibson, like I'll take a shot on him at 4% maybe. Something like that. But I'm playing on FanDuel today, so you only have to play one pitcher. See what's going on FanDuel. Yeah, Bauer. I think Bauer's going to be way more owned than 20% on FanDuel. Like, no, Nola is 9K. Okay, that's a little bit more palatable. Glasnow, I can't see Glasnow being disowned. Say for Strasburg on FanDuel. Are people going to pay 10K for Strasburg? Is that going to happen? I think Paddock will be more owned at 6,300. I'd love to see him. If he's 9% on FanDuel, I'll be 6 times that. That's the case. Pitching isn't as exciting on FanDuel because you only have to play one, so you don't get into this situation where you're like, since people have to play 2, you get more ownership on some of the other guys. The only reason I'm playing on FanDuel is because they have cheaper contests for multi-entry. I typically only play on one site, multi-entry. I'm going to play 100 lineups. It's going to be on one of the 2. I did it on Monday. I played on both at the same time. That's a pain in the ass. I got it done. I just don't. It's just a lot of moving parts at the same time because you're trying to juggle. Who do I have here? Versus who do I have here? I'm stacking this there, but not that there. Like you just have to go back and forth. Let's see. Let's see. I don't think people are fearing Bauer's price. People are talking about fearing Bauer's price. I think he's clearly the best pitcher on the slate. It's not like Trevor Bauer, like on DraftKings. It's not like Trevor Bauer's 11.9 and then everyone else is 9K. And do you fear that price? I fear Nola's price. I fear Glasnow's price. I fear like what's the alternative? If I'm going to spend money, why don't I just spend 11.9 on Bauer and not 11.2 on Glasnow or Nola or Anderson or Wood? And you could do it. We do have 3K hitters on the slate. We do have some underpriced bats and cores. So you could do it. You could play. Like if we go into lineup preview, Let's say you do play the two highest priced pitchers. Let's just say you do that. You still get Coors bats. Look, Adames in Toronto, Kane, Garcia, Rosario. I mean, this isn't that bad of a lineup. You're not spending up for an Acuna or anything, but there you go. Let's say you just play Bauer. Let's run. So you get Paddock in there at 8,600, and that allows you to get Story, basically. Story and Kepler and Castro. Doesn't really change that much other than Story. You go from Adames to Story. Still paying down at the outfield. Take out Bauer. Bauer's going to be in there anyway for raw points. Right, there you go. But it's like the difference between Bauer Paddock and Bauer Ian Anderson is basically, oh, here's Story, but you have to play Blandino. Okay. So basically it just comes down to Story. If you're not playing Story, you could get away with playing two 10K level pitchers. And if you're paying down, let's say you were to pay down, let's go by point per dollar value. You pay Mike Minor, you pay Minor and Paddock. So you're playing 8,600 and 7,500. Now what do you get for that? Basically, you get Yelich, Blackman, Story. That's it. Everyone else is kind of McMahon. You're just getting basically three Coors bats and Yelich at 4,800. Obviously, it'll change who you could stack, right? Because you wouldn't be just playing like one-offs and stuff in GPP. But the differences between the lineups aren't that dramatic, really. Other than maybe Story at shortstop. The opportunity cost there. Do you need to play Blackman at 4,800? I don't think that's a must. We just ran the straight optimal just as of right now. Paddock, Bauer. Right. You're still getting Story. Kepler. I mean, this is not that bad of a lineup. If you change Paddock for a 10K pitcher, all you're doing is really just giving rid of Story, going from Story to Adames. Okay. Just hope Story doesn't hit a home run or something. Or 2 stolen bases or whatever. I think people are going to get attracted to Coors. The Rays in Toronto. Right? I'm not sure about the Brewers. Maybe the Nats against Jorge Lopez, maybe? Maybe. Could that be a thing? I don't know. Anyone else that people like to attack? The Mets are cheap. I don't know if anyone goes there. I don't think anyone will play the Pirates against Ian Anderson, even though they're cheap. What the Pirates starting lineup look like? Same from yesterday with Stallings and no. Ian Anderson, get Polanco at 2,700, Newman at 2,700, Will Craig. Yeah, you just get a lot of sub 3K guys. You get leverage, I guess, if Ian Anderson is going to be owned, but I don't think he's going to be that owned. I don't think any pitcher on this slate is going to be that owned. Where on a 15-game slate you'd be like, well, I got to stack against that guy. Like they'll be 3% don't stacks everywhere. That's what I said. Like if anything, like but Bauer is going to be owned. And I'm going to play the Giants against Bauer. It's like, well, the Giants are going to be 1% owned. Yeah, but I could pick out half the teams they're going to be 1% owned. Why not play the Rangers against Tyler Ivey? Like, look at their ownership, 2%. Okay, what's the difference? Play the White Sox. Look at their guys. They're a little overpriced, some of their guys. Yankee Stadium, what's wrong with that? Play the Phillies against Martin Perez. 3-4% owned. Like, you don't have to. Oh, it's a 15-game slate. I'm going to stack against Bauer. Like, just why? For leverage, not because you're actually like, oh no, I think he's going to get blown up or something. Like, no, just you're doing it for leverage. They've one of the lowest team totals, 3.35 on a 15-game slate. There are tons of ways to play low-owned players that aren't up against a chalky pitcher. And is Bauer going to be that chalky? If Bauer is going to be 60% on this slate, Then, okay, maybe you do the giant stack. But at 32 or something like that, If it was a smaller slate, if it was a 6-game slate, okay. 4-game slate, sure, okay. 15 games, I got plenty other ways to go. Remember, when you're stacking 5 guys on DraftKings, they pretty much need to be the highest scoring team on the slate. So out of 30 teams on the slate, the Giants against Bauer puts up 12 runs. Like that, you need that. Not that Bauer gives up 5 runs, has a bad outing, but the Giants still only put up 5 runs. Like the stack doesn't get there. Yes, it kills all the Bauer lineups, but your Giants lineup ain't winning the GPP because some other team. So, the Twins come out and score 14 runs. I mean, like, any of these teams can. Let's see. Go through the YouTube chat. Frederick Dude asks, I heard it mentioned before, but can you discuss the reason behind not playing all outfielders from the same lineup? Doesn't mean you can't do it. I do play lineups like that. Depends. It's if you're playing like a 5X, like you're specifically now if you're playing 5-3 where you're locking in all your players or something, if you're playing a 4-4, like I don't then sure, then whatever fits. But when you're playing lineups constructions that include one-offs, outfield is obviously the highest opportunity cost for ceiling to win first place because there's so many more outfielders. So if you're going to build, let's say you were to build, like let's take the Red Sox. Yeah, perfect. Because now Enrique Hernandez is on what is this? DraftKings is only outfield eligible. He's not second base eligible anymore. So the Red Sox, let's say you stack the Red Sox and you play Hernandez, Verdugo, and Martinez. That's all 3 outfield spots. Now in FanDuel, you have a utility position. So that's why FanDuel is, I don't care necessarily about playing all 3 outfielders. So once you lock this in, let's say you play 1 to 5. All 3 outfielders are shortstop and third base. Now, if a one-off, and you're playing 5X, which means that your first baseman is going to be a one-off, your catcher is going to be a one-off, and your second baseman is going to be a one-off. Okay? Well, there aren't as many players in those positions. There are more players available at outfield. So on a 15-game slate, that's 30 teams, average of 3 outfielders per team. There's 90 outfielders. If there's a one-off 3-don game by someone that is at least more than like 5% owned or something, 3% owned, it's impossible to have them in this lineup because you're now playing all 3 outfielders from the same team. Now, obviously, if it's one of those hitters, sure. But let's say Randy Arozarena has 3 home runs against Anthony Kay in this game. And you have a 5K one-off, but he's at second base because you can't play Arozarena in a lineup that has all 3 outfielders locked up from another team. And there are a lot more outfielders. Let's say Max Kepler goes off or something. Let's say Marcell Ozuna has double dong against Tyler Anderson. Let's say Jorge Soler hits a bunch off of the Urena. I mean, there's so many more power hitting outfielders that if I'm going to go in and I'm going to go like, oh, if I'd rather have a one-off in the outfield than a one-off at second base. There's less second baseman that could kill me. So in that Boston Red Sox stack, maybe instead of playing one of these outfielders, you play Marwin Gonzalez at second base to fill that spot, or Vasquez at catcher at a weaker position where there's less players that are likely to put up a score that you'll need to win a GPP. Because there's less second baseman. And especially, there's less good second baseman. Right? Am I worried about, at second base? Am I worried about Stevie Wilkerson putting up 3 home runs? No. Am I worried about even Cesar Hernandez? Am I worried about him? Am I worried about Jose Peraza? Am I worried about these guys? Right, who? Adam Frazier, he's going to put up 40 points? Probably not. Solak, maybe? I mean, they're just at less good players at those positions and more power hitting good players at outfield. Doesn't mean never do it. Never put 3 outfielders from a team in a 5-man stack on DraftKings. No, that doesn't mean anything. But think in those types of terms. If I'm going to play 150 liners and build 20 Red Sox stacks and they're all going to have 3 outfielders in it, well, I better hope to God that no other outfielder puts up a 40-point game or something. Maybe I have all 3 of these outfielders in some of them, but I will make it a point not to have it in all of them. And sometimes I'll just make sure to have it in none of them because it's easier that way. Just don't have to worry about it. That's the reasoning behind it. It's the opportunity cost of a one-off in the outfield. On DraftKings, because you don't get the utility. You don't get the utility. On FanDuel, you could do it. Because you have a utility slot, you could put another outfielder there. You could play 4 outfielders. Let's see. Anything else before we get out of here? Nate Brantraw asks, do you think today's slate provides a larger edge to smart players on DK? Because most of the year we have seen the ability to jam stud starting pitchers with almost any batch you want. But I think you could do that today anyway. I still think you could do it today. It just means some of the more expensive guys are going to be lower owned than usual. But there's a lot to choose from. It's also a big slate. Right? If we take a look at salary-wise, like Acuna, Soto, 7%, 9%. I mean, look at the high price range on the batters. Pretty low, right? Like nothing in the double digits. Until we get down to what, Escobar? I mean, this is obviously just early ownership. Doesn't mean anything. Obviously, the core is bats, but most of these expensive hitters are going to be going under owned. But I mean, doesn't mean you jam in all the Acuna. I'm going to play him in half my lineups. No. It just means right now lineups that include 1 or 2 expensive hitters are going to be less owned. So to me, it's not necessarily. To me, I think it still comes down to the same thing of, I don't think the edge is in the pitching today. I'm going to jam in 2 stud pitchers and play vomit stacks. I think it's the opposite. I think it's playing cheap pitchers and jamming in stacks that are in cores that people aren't going to play. I hope the stack goes off. I know Bauer doesn't put up a ceiling. If he puts up 25 points, I'm not dead. That's fine. Just as long as he doesn't put up 40. And you just get enough points out of pitchers in the low range. To me, but I mean, that's what I've been doing for most of the year anyway. Because people have been paying up for pitcher twice and then jamming in cheap players. But you could still do that. I mean, look, all I have to do is press this and look. You get cores, right? You get Story, Kepler. You still get Milwaukee in Cincinnati against Jeff Hoffman. You get Vogt and cores, Cronin cores, like cheap Leba if you wanted to play Castro, Story. I mean, and this is Paddock Bauer. And even if people do like Bauer Glass now, for instance, I mean, it doesn't change that much. You still get Story, you punt at catcher. I mean, it doesn't look all that different. I think these are going to be the types of lineups that are going to be more played today. Because the Colorado and the Coors bats are not priced up enough. And then you could still find 3K bats in other games. So to me, that's not a product of the pitcher pricing. It's a product of the hitter pricing. The salary floor in the hitting was 3,500, and Avi Garcia was 4,200 instead of 3,300. Those types of the Milwaukee guys. Yelich was 5,500 that he should be. Like, yeah, then you're not going to be able to. Then we'd be starting to talk about now we start talking about vomit stacks. But still, there's still too many hitters that are under 3K. You just start by point per dollar value here. I mean, you could play Khalil Lee if you wanted at 2K. Darren Ruff, probably not against Bauer. Pujols against Wood at 2K. Miggy against Minor at 2,600. I mean, they're not the sexiest of plays. Brian O'Grady against Flexen, 2K. Will Craig, 2K. Upton, 3,000. Kane, 3,300. Vaughn, 2,200 against Jordan Montgomery in Yankee Stadium. Eddie Rosario, 3,300. Willie Adames in the Little League ballpark in Dunedin, 2,900. Greg Polanco betting cleanup in Atlanta. Lefty, 2,700. I mean, this is what I mean. You could find hitters to throw in. If you play two of these guys, you could play anyone you want practically. So I don't think the dynamics is going to change that much on this slate. I don't think people are going to play down a pitcher. But doesn't mean they're going to pay up twice. Maybe not. But I could see Bauer, Strasburg, Bauer, Paddock, Bauer, Minor. You know, I could see those types of lineup. Hendricks maybe, an up and down type of lineup. I could see that, and you could still get good bets. But do I see Bauer, Glasnow type of lineups? No, I don't. Or Nola. Are people going to do that? I don't know. I don't think I am. I think people will be more willing to do that, though. But I think most of it is going to be paying 10K plus for one pitcher and pay somewhere between 7 and 9 or whatever for the second pitcher on DraftKings. I think that will be the build as of now. As of now. Michael Dompier. Strategy. When you look at Boston's Martin Perez, based on his price, no one should own him. Just like Kelly last night. Is it thinking too much to play him because no one will in a huge MME contest? There's 30 teams. Do you have to do that to get different? You can get different in so many other ways. Merrill Kelly yesterday is a different story. There's only 4 games, and he's 6% owned as a pitcher. There are really only 7 pitchers to choose from. Not 6 pitchers to choose from. Probably not playing David Hale either. So 6% owned when there's only 6 pitchers to choose from. That's a way to get different. When there's 30 pitchers to choose from. Right? You take a look at let's take a look at Martin Perez. Where's Martin? Let's do it by salary, just so we can. Martin Perez. Oh, no one's gonna have him, right? Because he's 0.25% owned, right? Projected. He'll be less than 1% owned. Well, how about Tyler Anderson then? Well, why don't you play him? You say he's cheaper and going to be 1% owned, right? Why not play Chris Flexen against San Diego? He's 2%. Jose Urena, Jose Quintana, Tristan McKenzie, Jordan Montgomery at 4%. Why don't you play Alex Wood at 10K against the Dodgers? No one's going to play him. 4% owned. Like I can make that case with so many other pitchers. If I want to play a 1% owned pitcher, why don't I play Herman Marquez? Why don't they just play a cheaper pitcher then? If it was a 4-game slate, I'd be with you. 1% owned pitcher on a 4-game slate? Sure, I'm jamming that in. But look, you have so many other pitchers to choose from. Play Kyle Gibson at 4%. Carlos Martinez against the Cubs. That could work out. Then pay $9,400 for Martin Perez. His projection is lower than a lot of the guys that are 3K, 2 to 3K cheaper than him, that are also going to be that low owned or low enough owned. That, oh, well, no, Martin Perez is going to be 1% owned versus Jose Urena going to be 2% owned. So I go, 1 versus 2%. Oh, the big scheme of things, it doesn't matter. So no. Can he have a good game? Sure, yes. He's playing Philadelphia, right? And they've been horrible. So yes, I guess. But based on projections, makes no sense to do so. When there's so many others, you can find all the leverage you want without overpaying for Martin Perez. So don't think in terms of, oh, no one's going to play him, I'm going to play. Like, what is that? What are your other choices? What's the opportunity cost? What does your lineup look like? Like, now you don't play DFS with individual players. You play with lineups. Can I build a lineup that is different enough and higher projected that doesn't have Martin Perez? Yes, I can build thousands of them. So why aren't I building those instead of playing Martin Perez? That's the logic behind it. If there was no other way for me to get different and I needed to play overpriced Martin Perez, okay, then now we're talking. Is there other ways to get different? Yeah, of course. It's the hundreds of thousands of ways. Christopher Ray, new to MLB DFS. Is stacking necessary for cash? No. Cash, you're just playing the best median lineup you can. Let's see. Okay. I think we're good for casual Friday. Thumbs up. Give me some thumbs on your way out the door for keeping the apple juice cold. Got a big 15-game slate coming up. Let's see what happens. And then I'll be back. I'll be back next week, right? We got MMA coming up. MMA coming up on tomorrow. So I'll be playing that early. It's an earlier slate, 4 p.m. or something. And as always, all the stuff about strategy and game theory and everything are covered in my course, right? 15-hour audio DFS masterclass, the theory of daily fantasy sports. You see all the chapters: game objectives, player selection, expected value, leverage, correlation, construction, risk management, exploit, psychology. I mean, it's most of the stuff I talk about on this show. It's just in one 15-hour structure. It's like going to a seminar. And I teach you all the game theory that applies to any sport. Doesn't matter what you play, right? That's why the good players are good at pretty much every sport, right? They don't need to know the sport. They just need to know how to play the game of DFS. So pick that up. The theory of daily fantasy sports, how to think like a professional DFS player. Theoryofdfs.com. And you'll finally figure out why, like most of the questions that people ask, I find stupid. Once you get it, you'll be like, you're right. All those questions are kind of stupid. You know, they're pretty stupid. Do I play this guy or this guy? That's we have projections for that. I don't know why you're even asking that question. I don't know. Just look at the projections. So pick that up. Theoryofdfs.com. Angelo Strafe says, I bought your course. Anyone who plays DFS needs to listen. It's worth every penny. Actually underpriced. Right. Okay, so get it before I bump up the price. Maybe I'll triple the price. Angelo, maybe he convinced me. I'm charging too little. Bump that crap up, right? We got MLB Grinders live coming on later today. Crunch time for premium members on RotoGrinders. Sign up for RotoGrinders Premium Combo or a single sport or whatever. Click on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. And I'll see you back next week because I'm here as usual, Mondays through Fridays, 11 o'clock Eastern, for the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.